So, hello and welcome to another episode of the podcast. And if you would have noticed, for the last few episodes, we have very diverse guests discussing on very diverse topics as well. But one thing that has really amused me for some time is the commonality that is there in this vast and beautiful country of ours. Basically, the nuances are there, the variations are there, but the what I feel is the philosophical underpinnings, they are so similar. I don't know whether similar or saying what is right to use, but the commonalities are definitely right there. So I am from Uttarakhand and I frequently travel to Himachal, and the architecture and the cultural underpinnings are quite similar over there. But recently I just got to know about a book which talks about the fascinating similarities between the temple architectures of, you can guess, Himachal and West Bengal. And for that, we have a very special guest today, Miss Monidipa Dey. And thanks a lot for coming on the show, ma'am.
Namaste. Thank you for inviting.
That's great, ma'am. So, my first question to you would be, ma'am, how did you start on this journey of, you know, finding this similarity? This is a very niche thing, or what I can say, a very esoteric thing to even observe and talk about. So, how did you get into this journey? And just out of sheer curiosity, which architecture in Himachal impresses you the most?
I am a very frequent visitor to Himachal. My friend used to stay there. She's now moved to Uttarakhand, so you will find me going to Uttarakhand more now. But she used to stay in Himachal, and I used to go there every, say, twice a year or something like that. And I used to, since I am into temple iconography, I've started around say 10 years, 8 years back. I had taken this interest in iconography and decided to take it up seriously. And so my friend took me around the temples in Himachal, and she used to stay near the Sarsai Nagar area, and there are a lot of temples in that area, stone temples, pretty old, say 10th, 11th century temples, and she took me around those places, and I have seen this, noticed the temple. I had seen the similarities, but these things don't strike you because these are not written anywhere. You do not find this historical documentation. People have documented temples, but they don't compare these similarities between regions. That these are India is a very connected country. First need to understand that all these regional divisions, all these language divisions that people keep bringing up is just a superficial thing. Otherwise, this entire country is very well connected. I'll slowly go into it how it is connected, and these things don't occur. So I could see the similarities, but it never struck me in that way. Then I met Bijli Mahadev temple. It's a very famous temple in the Kulu Valley in Himachal. Bijli Mahadev temple priest, and he was the first one who told me about this Pala and the Sena dynasty settling. The most interesting thing he told me, he has these priests. They keep a list of the people, matlab, the people who come to them, or the area people who visit the temples. They have this, what do you call, a genealogy of the total descendants, everyone who first came. Then they keep a record. Even if you go to Haridwar, you will have this.
Yeah.
So he told me, I have we have the list, and there are a lot of Bengali descent people in this area. There are many who are descendants of the Bengalis, because the Palas and the Senas brought a lot of castes, Bengali castes, and they had settled, because since they had traveled over there, and so they also brought many of the Bengali, lots of various castes, and settled them. What we call as caste is Varanas, basically, for us. Caste is a wrong word to use. Caste is a foreign word. So I'll say Varanas. They had brought many Varanas from the Bengali community and settled them here. So he told me the people that you see in the Kulu and Mandi district, basically, are mainly, many of them are from the Bengali descendants. This is what put me on track. And since I had already noted the similarity, I started studying. Then there is recorded documentation of all these things, but nobody studies them, basically. And nothing better than when you compare the temple architecture, and then you will suddenly realize where the connection is. That the Pala kings, when Palas were rabid temple builders, even in West Bengal. Unfortunately for West Bengal, most of the temples have been destroyed during the Islamic invasion. They
Just a
flattened
small
West Bengal.
Just a small question, ma'am, because I am
Yes.
not very well versed with the history of Bengal, and I really find it very strange because I try to read history, but I don't find much literature about the historical dynasties which ruled over Bengal. And even I had a guess. We talked about the Ahoms kings in Assam and all that area, but not much about Bengal that I know. So if you could just give a brief introduction, that would really help us to set the context for the conversation.
See, in Bengal, right, let's starting from the, if you go back in the BC era, we had the Mauryan kings too. It was under the Mauryan dynasty. Then there came the Sunga dynasty. They also, the kingdoms extended to Bengal. Gupta was completely Gupta. In fact, if you read R.C. Mazumdar, he says that he's given a lot of. R.C. Majumdar has written three volumes on Bengal. One is the ancient Bengal, one is the medieval Bengal, one is the modern Bengal, which deals until the independence movement. And if you look at the ancient Bengal, so he takes up all this various times, and he says that there are a lot of theories about the Gupta dynasty origin. He's given all the theories and all, and he says that the most convincing theory is that they were the original one, the first one who was not the king but the grandfather. He had come from Murshidabad area, which is in West Bengal. So this is a very eastern zone dynasty. They ruled over Bihar, Bengal, the extended Gupta dynasty, extended whole of northern
Yeah,
India. So they
yeah, yeah.
also, and even the hills of Bengal were under Gupta dynasty. So it was under Gupta dynasty totally. After Gupta dynasty, there was a period of confusion. Then came the most famous king who united Bengal as what we see today. It was Raja Shashanko. And
Okay.
the leftist historians have given him a very bad name that he destroyed Buddhist monasteries on, which is mostly fake because there are no records as such. And there is only one person who mentions all these things is Yong-sang, and Yong-sang was a Buddhist fanatic. He had given a lot of theories which are not correct. R.C. Mazumdar, read ancient Bengal R.C. Mazumdar, he breaks down all these myths. There is a chapter in Raja Shashanko where he breaks down these myths, and he said that these are mostly false stories about breaking Buddhist monasteries and all. They don't match up. Dates don't match up. Theories don't match up. So after Raja Shashanko, he was a very powerful king, but his entire lifetime was spent with fighting with wars with Harshavardhana and the other kings, surrounding kings. Then after Raja Shashanko died, again there was a period of very big chaos. There was a lot of confusion going on where there was no dynasty actually fixed dynasty come up. So, ending that came the Pala dynasty. Pala dynasty is Bengal origin, native Bengal, and they elected. It happened. It's a very beautiful sign of democracy that was shown. They could not find anyone to make the king, so and this is a local hero. Gopala was the first king. He was a local hero. So it was elected. He was elected by the common people. Common people meaning the heads of the common people. They had a group. They had formed a group who were the heads of the common
Sort
people.
of a republic, we can say.
Yes, sort of a republic. They elected this man. They said this man has the characteristics of a warrior. He is suitable to be a king. So it is more of a republic than a democracy. But it happened that way. Gopala became the king. He was a very good king, very good administrative, and this movement of the Pala started from them. The movement towards north side, and Gopala came around, say, mid 8th century. It was from the end of that 8th century that his cousin or his brother or his son, brother's son, they started moving out. Palas were a very, they were not true fixed placement. They were not staying in a fixed place. This man is ruling, but the royal family members were not very quiet. They were moving out. They had moved out to Southeast Asia also. They
Oh,
had gone to a lot of Southeast Asia. Temples are also very similar to Bengal architecture. These people had moved out, and they had also moved towards the northern side. They first went to Bihar. They went to Bihar. They went to UP. The Pala king. From when we come to know this person has moved to Himachal, he has stayed in Haridwar for quite some time. Haridwar was known as Mayapuri at the time. He stayed there for a long time, and then only he moved to Himachal. And so these people kept on moving, and they faced wars. Many of them died. Many of their the royal family people died in wars while moving out towards the west. There is a record also in Rajasthan on a temple. saying Gauriya Kshatriyas. I'll be very honest, when my book was coming out, I had met with some resistance from the few of the Himachali Rajputs. They were not happy with the connection of Bengal. At that time, I was helped by the Rajputs from Rajasthan. They pulled out temple inscription, and they told me, ma'am, there's a temple inscription which says that Palas had come here on the western side. It has recorded over there Kshatriyas, Gauriya Kshatriyas are Palas, Gaur is in Bengal. And so they had sent me that inscription, ma'am, read this. They had moved westward, there is recording of it. From there, they had moved further north. They had gone to Himachal. And then Byangamani Pal is recorded. How he went from Mayapuri, he moved to Himachal. So that part is recorded. Before that, there's a lot of confusion because there is this tripartite. Read the tripartite wars, sorry, which was constantly happening between the Palas, the Rashtrakutas, and the Pratiharas. They were constantly fighting, and they kept on moving. Palas kept on moving from west to north. They kept on moving. Then one branch went to this Vihangamani Pal, went to Himachal, and he started a dynasty over there. When he started, he took a lot of Bengali Varnas, settled them there, and that's how they lived there. The dynasty, Pala dynasty, was for a long time till 1450. This they started from around end of let's say 8th century or beginning of 9th century. They started in Himachal, and they ruled till 1450. From after 1450 came the Singh dynasty. Before that, they were the Pala dynasty. So they ruled for a long time, and then these people, what you see, the descendants in the Kulu Valley is majorly Bengali descendants, and then they got mixed up. There were also other people, Khasas were there. So this is how it happened in Himachal. The history goes this way. This is all recorded. I've given in my book. This is all recorded over there. And later on, interestingly, again, when the Palas got defeated, the Senas came and started ruling Bengal. The Senas were living in Bengal for a long time, but the Senas came from mostly from Karnataka. They came from Karnataka during the Pala era rule. They settled in Bengal for a long period. And then when the Pala dynasty ended, the Sena dynasty took over. Again, Sena dynasty, at the end part, when the Islamic invasion started, then scion of the Sena dynasty moved towards north. Again, there were a lot of fights in Punjab. They faced a lot of fights. It's all documented in my book. They fought over there. Then one of the sons moved to Mandi, settled there. So Mandi is also, Mandi dynasty is still there. Mandi Sena dynasty is still there. No more sons. So the dynasty in that way has just ended. But and he has, the last king has made Lord Krishna as the king. So it is no longer Sena dynasty. It is now Lord Krishna as the ruler of Mandi, and but the family is still there, and they have all the genealogy trees, family trees, everything is there. So Mandi dynasty, Mandi is also Senas also took a lot of Bengali Varnas and settled them on the Mandi dynasty. So both Kulu and Mandi have a lot of Bengali origin. So once you know the background history, then it becomes very easy to understand why the temple architecture is so similar. Very see Bengal, abhi the Nagara name. Then now we have three sorts of three types of temples which we basically study, which is the Nagara, North Indian temple architecture. Second is the Dravidian temple
Dravidian.
architecture, which we call the South India, and there is a mixed which we call the Vesa, mix of north and south, which is in the deck in the mid part. You find it there in the middle part.
Some sort like Ujjain or like the temples we find in Ujjain
Ujjain will come under Nagara. It
will
will
come under
show the
Nagara.
North Indian temple. Yeah, this is little below down. Same Vesara. You will find there is one example of Vesara in Madhya Pradesh, which is the Telika Mandir. Gwalior Fort,
Okay.
it's there in the Gwalior Fort. If you visit Gwalior Fort, it's a must-see temple. It's a
Okay.
mix. It's a mix between North Indian, very beautiful mix, very beautiful temple. Was destroyed, and then again they have conserved it
Okay.
very well. So must visit. Gwalior Fort is a must visit temple. I'll that will be a very different topic altogether. So let me stop here only. And North Indian
Before
temple.
before
One.
before we go on, ma'am, I mean, I can, since I said I belong to Uttarakhand, I really find it fascinating that most of the tourists that I observe in, at least in my town, they come from Bengal even still. I
Bengal
mean,
still has that habit of traveling. You know, this what
yeah,
Pala dynasty represents is Bengalis travel. They cannot sit still in
yeah.
a place. Moment they get a chance, they will travel. Pala dynasty is that they have traveled everywhere. They have gone to Southeast Asia. They have gone to North India. They have even there are traces of the Sena Pala dynasty influence also in Kashmir. Kashmiri people have told me there was once a temple, it's destroyed now, but there was a temple built by the Sena dynasty. So this Bengalis that is in the gene and blood traveling. They will not
When
sit
you were
still.
describing these travels or these intermingling of different cultures, that really struck me, yeah, because we have most of our tourists in my place in Ranikhet coming from Bengal. So
It is
that's a
there.
very.
It is ancient times that they are traveling. So
And one more thing, ma'am, you have just mentioned about Shri R.C. Majumdar. So I have been reading about, I haven't read honestly his books because I find them very deep in a sense. So
yes.
from my intelligence, I tried reading them but couldn't get at right now. But how important are his contributions in perspective of Indian history, if we can say that? That would be
See,
great
I
if you can touch
will.
it.
R.C. Mojumdar is a person who refused to bow down to the leftist historians. When the Nehruvian historians came, he refused to. He said, "I will give history as it is, and let people decide what happened. I will give the history, just the basic facts, and let people read and make their own conclusions," which was not liked by the Nehruvian historians. They were giving out propaganda. They humiliated him. I have tweeted recently on R.C. Mujumdar. His birthday was on just 2 days back. I tweeted the tweet and tweeted on him. They have humiliated. They had you have no idea how they humiliated him, but he kept on fighting. He died in 1980. Till 1980, you will find him writing books because he knew he had to document history, otherwise they are going to distort it. He was a visionary man. He knew what was coming, so he has documented the entire history. His books are all available now as PDF. They are being reprinted recently. These are all recent incidents happening. Before that, the leftists made sure his books go out of print. I'm telling you, I bought one of his books, and this was last reprinted in 2002. After that, this year they again reprinted it. So you can see what had happened. It had gone out of print totally, and only books available were Habib Thapar and that entire group. So people could not read these books, and then there was no internet at the time. There was no PDF format, so people were not aware of this. Now these are available, and I'll say one thing: go through all his books. See, R.C. Mujumdar was at a time when there was a Dravidian Aryan theory going on, so he has written about Aryan and all. You have to filter it out. Those parts, it's not necessary because we have already proved through very scientific techniques Aryan theory doesn't exist. So you have to overlook those parts. Rest of the history that he's given is something you must read because he's given facts. You read the facts, you will know what has happened. You don't need any Habib or Thapar to give you propaganda narratives. So that is why his books are important, because you need to understand the real picture. Like, and his very interesting thing is that, like, when I was talking about Raja Shoshanko, what he does, he gives the theories of all people. Everybody has various theories. He'll give all the theories, and then he'll just write his own opinion in 1 or 2 lines, so you can compare yourself what various people are thinking, what various people are discussing, and then you can make your own decision. You make your own decision. Why do you need to have somebody brainwashing you? That is not required. That was what R.C. Mujumdar did. No brainwashing. You read the facts, you decide by yourself, and he's documented everything. There was this at that same time. There was a lot of historians who were documenting, like in iconography. Since I'm more into iconography, I have read books where people have documented every item in a museum. Take it to be Kolkata Museum, Dhaka Museum. Dhaka Museum is has priceless artifacts because the Bengali Hindu Zamindars never thought that they would be chased out from the country. So what they did, they collected all those temple ruins were there. They had priceless murtis. When I was reading those murtis, I was just thinking, what a waste that it's gone to Bangladesh and it's not in India. They had collected those murtis, they had put in Dhaka Museum. Dhaka Museum has a priceless collection. If those murtis are still there, I don't know if they're there because there are no records. I have tried searching a lot on internet. There are absolutely no records now. But these are all documented by there's one person called Bhattashali. He had documented every single sculpture in Dhaka Museum. So these are all there. But now we don't know whether they are there. Bangladesh, all temples were documented. We do not know whether the temples are there or not. There is no recording of it. And so, what we do about this Bengal temple, mostly I have written two blogs on Bengal temple. And the saddest part is that there are still Pala era temples, but they're very few. Most were destroyed. So, we don't have record. We have to look at Orissa because Orissa also has a similar architecture with Bengal. We have to look at Orissa. Saddest part is we have to look at Southeast Asia for how the Bengal temples once looked like. So I was very happy when I saw Himachal. At least I know that some temples are there in Himachal. I can see and I can take pleasure. Bengal once looked like this. And Young Sun has his travel documents has recorded that Bengal was filled with temples. He's saying in a small location there are so many temples. Now you can imagine what Bengal was once before the Islamic invasion happened.
Ma'am,
So
before, as you were saying, and because it's very interesting to know the science that you mentioned, iconography. If you can delve on that, that what is iconography and how do you go
iconography
about studying
is,
it?
study of murti. It's if you say take murti of Shiva in a temple. I'm just giving an example of Brihadashwara temple in South India. Beautiful, must visit Brihadashwara. The Chola temples are priceless treasures for us. You must visit those temples once. And you take up Shiva Murti in temple. It's a Shiva temple. You are going around. You will find every niche has various forms of Shiva. And iconography is study of those temples, is seeing the postures, seeing those the dresses he's worn, the ornaments he's worn, and each one will tell you a story. How it will tell you a story, the dresses will tell you how which dresses were common at that time. Whatever was in fashion was put on the gods. So you will get to know the social fashion of this time. You will get to know you'll get a very good social picture of what the women were wearing, what the men were doing, what work they were doing. And the ornaments also say the same story. And the most important is that each murti is based on some Puranic stories. So what used to happen is that when people used to go around these temples, pradakshina, which we call left to right, they're going. The most often the priests would be around them, and they would take around. They would explain each stories. So this is how the Hindus were used to be remain connected to their Hinduism through these murtis. Shiva is that he would say the story. Say, let's take the story of the this burning of Kama when Kamdev was burned by Lord Shiva. It's very beautifully depicted on temples in South India. And the priest comes and takes them around, tells them the story. The person knows that Shiva had opened the eyes, burnt Kamdeva, so he knows the story. The iconography, beautiful postures of associated with the story. They, not only the story is there, you get murtis related to the story also. Kamdev is getting burned. His wife is standing very scared, looking very scared. And before that, Sati. Before that, he went into a meditation phase when Kamdeva was bothering him, trying to wake him up. Before that, Sati happened. So that story will also be there previously. So iconography is very important that way. You are knowing the story, you are getting a social and political picture of those times also through the various posture, dresses, ornaments. So in that way, iconography is a very difficult topic because each mudra is posture is not very easy to remember. You don't remember how there are, each posture has a name. If he's sitting Padmasana, like some of the posture known as Padmasana, Ardha Paryankana, all different names. And if his leg is down, this is a different name. If he's sitting in a different posture, that is a different name. It's not easy. It is not easy to remember what Shiva is holding in his hands. Uh, Everywhere, everywhere there's a different thing in the hand means a different name, different meaning, different story. If he's
Yeah.
carrying a bow and arrow in his hand, it invariably means he is Tripurantaka. He is destroying the three cities. Tripura.
Quite an interesting story, that one. Yeah.
That is a very interesting story. So
Yeah.
same god, different weapons in hand means different things, different stories altogether, different. So iconography is a study of all these the various depictions of the gods that we have, various weapons in hand, various ornaments. It's very interesting, very difficult, very complex, but I will
Apol-
say it's worth reading it.
Apologies for interrupting you time and again, because I just need to understand things, because the level at which you are speaking, and I'm just trying to understand those things. And
I know, I know.
I was also listening to your other podcast and other, whatever you have said on different digital platforms. So at one place, I remember you were describing something about the 20 temples, or the Brahma Prasada, if I'm not wrong, the ancient temples,
Yes,
the
yes,
Vimana.
yes,
If
yes.
you could just touch on that, because I found it very interesting. I mean, the whole philosophical underpinning behind it.
Yes, I had already started, and then I got think that now we have only three temple types:
Yeah,
Nagara, Dravida, and the Vesar. But these are very recent names. This came around 11th century. Before that, there was no Nagara. There were no regional divisions. Temples were known by their how they looked, the structure, how they looked. They were known as in that way. Like there were the Kailasha temple, which is supposed to look like a mountain. There were Kailash Nathar is still there. Then there were Gaja temples, which look like elephant back temples. So they were known beautiful. They had beautiful names, and they were known by their shapes. Temple measurements were also very important at that time. So originally they had Briyat Samhita. If you read, they had 20 types of. Originally we had 20 types of temples based on the temple shapes, and then later it increased to 45 types. It keeps on increasing, and then in the 11th century came the this division, regional wise division, the Nagara, the Vesara, and all. Before that, temples were had different names altogether. And wait, I'll read out from my book some of the names. They
yeah,
have beautiful temple names. Just give me 2 minutes, huh? I'll just pull it
sure, man,
out.
sure, man, sure.
See, the old texts from, if you read the old books like Brihad Samhita or the Agni Purana, they have divide temples according to the shapes and temple measurements. Okay, and then there we come across the 20 temples. Later, these 20 temples types increased to 45 in later texts, but the original text, Agni Purana and the Brihad Samhita, gives us only 20 temples. And these 20 temples are described based on the rules of proportionate measurement. Very important in a temple architecture is the measurement. If your measurement goes wrong, if your vastu is not followed, a temple is useless. This is very important for our temple. I'll come to that later why, but just keep it in mind now for our temple. For those who want to build temple, we see as a, people who build temples, it's like doing a home yagna. It's like a sacrifice which you're offering to the gods. So anybody can build a temple, and if you want to build a temple, be sure you get a good stapati who follows our shastras and builds temples. And because for us this proportionate measurement is very important, for us vastu is very important, and the directional science, vastu is a form of directional science, is very important. Do not build temples anywhere. There are certain rules which needs to be followed, and you should follow that those rules. So for the older, the 20 temples that I'm talking about, the original 20 temples, these are based on the rules of proportionate measurement. This is also mentioned in other architectural books like Matsya Purana. Samarangala Sutra is a very important book on temple architecture. And the names of this temple, just listen to them, they're very beautiful names. The names of these temples were Meru, Mandara, Kailasha, Nandana, Vimanachanda, Kunjara, Gaja, etc. All based on shapes.
Yeah.
So very beautiful names, and only the only name that is still in use is a Kailash, a mountain name or shape of a mountain.
Sort of cosmological symbolism is also there, if I'm not wrong.
Because we see temple as universe, cosmos.
Yeah,
Temple,
yeah,
the basic concept of Hinduism is the entire universe is there. It is not the house of God for us. This is temple is a place where you are uniting with the God for a brief moment. It is the entire universe, cosmos, very different from the Abrahamic faiths. For the Abrahamic faiths, it's the temple is a house of God. He stays there. I'm going there. He is a huge thing for him. I'm scared of him. I might say Hinduism may these concepts are not there. There is no concept of sin. There is no concept of good and bad. That is why you find gray shades in gods and asuras. Everyone like Ravana. Take an example of Ravana. He has good parts of him. He also has bad parts in him. So very our religion is so beautiful. We all have mixed shades. Everybody is a mix of good and bad. So we cannot label anyone as evil or good. And what is very important in Hinduism is the very important, that is what we call the law of karma. It is actually the law of dharma. So only thing that Hinduism is believes in is that dharma chakra, which is going around, which is the wheel of justice. You do an action, any action, good, bad, doesn't matter. You do an action, the chakra starts immediately. It's there in the Vedas. It immediately starts moving. You will get repercussions. It doesn't matter whether you visit temples and pray to God, I have done a sin, please forgive me. It will not happen. The wheel will move on and it will come to you one day. So that is Hinduism. Hinduism is a very beautiful religion. You go to a temple not to meet it is not a house of God. It is the universe, it is the cosmos. You are going there for darshan. During that darshan, when you see in the sanctum, you are for a brief moment uniting with the supreme
yeah.
consciousness, which is there in the Vedas. You believe in Shiva, Shiva is a supreme consciousness. You believe in Vishnu, he is the supreme consciousness. I am a Shakta, so I believe in the Devi. So for me, Devi, when I go to a temple, it be a Shiva temple, Vishnu temple, doesn't matter. For me, Ma is the ultimate supreme consciousness. So when I go to a temple, I go to unite with my Ma for a brief moment. So that
Very
is why
beautifully described.
the moment you see, you will find that cosmological, because it is the cosmos, it is the universe.
Mm.
And these 20 temples, very interesting point I'm mentioning here, the shapes of these 20 temples or prasadas were made similar to five Vimanas. What are the Vimanas? Vimanas are the five divine chariots that Brahma had once created for the gods. He had created five divine chariots with the names were Vairaja, Pushpaka, Kailasha, Manika, Trivistava. So these are the five chariots Brahma had created for the gods, and these five temples were made similar to those five Vimanas. Now, the one example I'll give you of a temple which still has those wheels is the Airavateshwara temple in Chola, built by the Cholas in Darasuram, Tamil Nadu. You go and visit it. The temple has wheels to show it as a chariot. That is how
Yeah,
originally our temples were built. Okay, they were the
fascinating.
chariots of gods. And those five names that I told you, those are the five chariots of gods on which are 20 original 20 prasadas. Temples were known as prasadas, which were originally built. So this is the original one, and this is how it all started. Then these 20 temples were forgotten, and we came up with the Nagara, Dravida, Vesara types. Regional types, there is another one part of the Nagara, that is the Kalingan type, Orissa. It came around 13th
Yeah.
century. So this is how these three names came much later. Now we know them. We have forgotten the old names, the original
Yeah.
beautiful names we have forgotten.
I only got to know about these prasadas or the ancient versions, if I can call them, of the temples,
Mhm.
just by when I was researching for this podcast. So I just came across it and I was like, I will definitely ask you this question. Now, one thing that I'm a student of science as well, and one thing that you have right now very beautifully mentioned is regarding the vastu, the geometrical underpinning of a temple, and how, if I can say, it helps to maintain the divinity in the places where we meet the super consciousness. So how important is geometry or the vastu of the temples, and how does it helps according to you in giving this place the divine feeling that we all get there once we go?
Vastu is everything in a temple. Without Vastu, there is no temple, there is no building also. buildings that we believe in that way. Our architectural sciences believe in that way. And I would ask the viewers to check the Vastu Purusha Mandala. The diagram is easily available in Google. Just see it, see the chart. The concept is very beautiful. The concept is right at the center is the darkest point where Brahma, the supreme consciousness, resides, and that is shown as dark because that is the eternal light. That is beyond. That is beyond time, beyond consciousness, beyond everything.
Singularity, as we call it, maybe.
That is the point of origin where what to say, from there the life will start. I'll come to that. This is a square, this is a dark hole, and this is where supreme Brahma resides. If you notice those the squares outside that, it's the cosmos. You will find the 12 suns, the 12 adityas, you will find the nakshatras. What are these? This is the cosmos. Entire cosmos is represented over there. Just see the diagram on Google. You'll get it very easily on Google. Study the names. The suns, 12 suns are there, the moons are there, the entire cosmos has been represented over there. That is the living world, the cyclical world. It is man created. Man has time is not time is man created.
Yeah.
When you think of Shiva, when you think of the little Brahma, where the supreme consciousness is there, it is beyond time. It is beyond everything. There is no time there. Everything is silent, still over there. It is when Vishnu goes into Ananta Shayana, everything is still, nothing. There is no life, there is nothing. Outside that is the cyclical world of life where everything is going in on order, very nice ordered world. Winter is coming, spring is coming, everything is coming in the world. That is the life, living world. And look at that Vastu Purusha Mandal, entire cosmos is there. That is a temple. The entire cosmos is represented in temple. Outside, you will find the directional gods who are there. They are showing the direction. That is the cosmos. The entire cosmos is there. So this is our temple. Vastu Shastra is very important to be when you. I have given everything in the book. You know, when you build a temple, you have to level the ground. The ground should be flat. There should not be any even parts because you are going to lay that before laying that Vastu Purusha. That diagram is laid on the ground. When you lay it on the ground, you have to have a very flat ground. There should not be uneven surfaces. And you lay it, you do a puja. All the rituals are there. It's a very complex ritual, very difficult. I mean, if I explain over here now, you will not be able to
Definitely.
understand because they have to put a lot of things are put garva
Garbhagriha.
Garvagriha, where the sanctum is there, na, that it is that Vastu Purusha Mandal where you put it on the ground. That is where the sanctum will be. That is where the divine, the divinity comes to meet the devotee. So that place has to be sanctified. It has to be very sacred. You put the Vastu Purusha Mandal, then there on top of it there are a lot of things which are put. One of them is a pot of wealth, which is seen as the womb, a woman, the Devi, Shakti. So there is Shakti,
Yeah.
there is Vishnu, there is everything over there. The entire cosmos, the world is there. So that is where the sanctum will be. You know, the sanctum concept in older times. Obviously, population was not so high, and people in a Hindu temple, you're supposed to enter the sanctum. This is how the original temples were built. Now there are too many people. I can understand why they don't allow them to enter the sanctum part.
Definitely.
But
Yeah.
for a Hindu temple, original concept was you enter the sanctum. You know why? Because once you enter the sanctum, you are meeting the divinity. That is what I said. You are uniting with the divinity. That is the basic concept of a Hindu temple. You enter the sanctum, you worship Shiva. Shiva is sitting there. That is Murti. This is symbolic of the divine power that is coming from top. That is why our temples, older days, those, even if you see
Oh.
the Nagara or the Dravida,
Yeah.
all have this moving up towards the
Up.
sky.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
because the energy is coming from there. It is coming. So everything is moving up. We are looking up. God is
Oh,
coming.
yeah.
The divine energy is coming
Perfectly
from
know. Yeah.
top. Yes, it's coming from there. It is coming down. It is coming and meeting at the point of the murti in the sanctum. Sanctum murti is there. It is there. You are coming in. Devotees coming in. You are seeing the murti. Divine energy is coming from top. You are briefly uniting with the God over there. You know what is that is moksha. Hinduism, the main theory is moksha. Everything is passing, transient. Nobody, matlab, in Hinduism, I'm saying that it's a very cruel way to think that you belong to nobody, nobody belongs to you, because we believe in moksha. One day we will unite with the supreme consciousness. So it is a very one-to-one relationship with the God. You enter there for a brief period, even for a brief period, you are having moksha because you are uniting with the divinity. It's a very sacred concept. So next time you go to a temple, go with that mind you are meeting the divine.
I,
And
I will just mention you one thing, ma'am. I mean, this is a very big serendipity, in fact, because like after only for 10 or 15 days, I am in fact going to South India, and I am planning to go to these. I am planning to go to Mahabalipuram and all these places
oh,
to
you
visit.
must. Wonderful temples, yes.
So I really find them very serendipitous. And the way you have just described it, how temples are built, the geometrical underpinnings, the philosophical underpinnings of them. And when I had guests about who were speaking about Tantra, and then I have read a few texts myself. And what I really find fascinating is how the internal microcosm and the external macrocosm, everything is somehow in a unison. Like the underpinnings over there and the way, the text describes the
Everything is
chakra and everything.
everything is there in our temple. Our temple represents everything. Everything.
It's,
I have
it's
explained. I just go through my book when I have explained those because these concepts are so difficult. It's one has to sit, understand, then think back what I'm reading.
yeah.
It's a very difficult concept. And but just remember one thing: when you are going to a temple, when you are going entering a temple, you for a moment you become one with the god, so go in that mind. It's a very sacred place, and for a brief moment I'm getting moksha. Moksha is not easy to get. It takes a lot of lives and deaths to get moksha, but
Yeah.
it's a one step for towards moksha. So it's a very one. We have a very beautiful one-to-one relationship with the God, and Hinduism, that is the main thing. And everything in Hinduism is temple architecture. Everything is related to moksha. Everything. So many iconography. Everything you read ultimately is moksha. It's a very beautiful.
I I get it, ma'am, and I can see in the passion with which you are describing, all these things, and I think it takes a very genuine interest to even read about so many different things and then bring about all those different faculties of sciences and philosophy together and to arrive at a conclusion. I was just reading somewhere that science is nothing but a process of inquiry, and that is what I like when when we touch upon different fields and then we gain a step further in what could be the reality. So
Whenever you
thanks a
read, ask questions. Keep asking
yeah.
questions. That is how you read more.
Even after even like speaking to you, I had read many things, and then suddenly things were playing in my mind, okay, that could have been a correlation between stuff, between different fields. So they won't come immediately, I guess, but once you will be doing something and something will strike you.
It
Like,
will, it will. That's why I said, no, you, if I explain, it will not work. You read my book, then after a few days, you will start, it will work in your mind. This has happened. It goes inside you, it is there in the brain.
yeah,
And then you slowly start, you read another book, that there is some other explanation, and then you start comparing. That's how your knowledge also expands.
yes, ma'am.
So
And I would really like to thank you, ma'am, for coming on to the show and describing so many different concepts. And I would request the listeners to definitely read the book because, as I say often, you cannot in a 40-minute conversation you cannot get
it is not
the
possible to
whole
explain everything.
cusp of things, and even the fun that you get in reading and understanding that stuff when you read a line or something that comes by reading a book. So you definitely do that. And ma'am, thanks a lot for coming on the show, and I really gained a lot just by talking to you. Maybe a few more things to read, I guess, and to know and explore as well.
Thank you for calling. It was a pleasure. I love talking about temples, so it was a pleasure.
Thank you, ma'am. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.